All right, my friends, welcome back. This is going to be part 59. 59 on my presentation on the flood and Noah's Ark. And we are going to continue on with the topic of the phosphate beds in South Carolina, that also called the Ashley phosphate beds. And in this booklet here by John Allen Watson, Man, Dinosaurs, and Mammals Together. And this has kind of springboarded me into or catapulted me into other little areas that I've been able to research about this topic. That's also led me to a gentleman by the name of Francis Holmes. And so, but at any rate, in this one here, we're going to look at some other things in an article by Creation Research Society that I thought was quite interesting. And so, but if you notice on the screen here, it says that the origin of the phosphate beds, the stratum, was concluded to be a derivation of the phosphoric acid of the bones, and this was the opinion from chemists of many fertilizer companies engaged in the mining. The deposits were popularly known by the chemist and the public as true bone phosphates. One estimate, the bones made up 65% of the deposits in the region of the Ashley River Basin. This was accepted by creationists, but uniformitarian geologists, paleontologists disagree and have not accepted the obvious bone origin and lead toward an evolutionary uniformitarian origin for them. A bone origin would necessitate land animals as a major source, incorporated into the beds in vast numbers, mixing with sea giants, whales, sharks, etc., and small bottom dwellers to form the reworked Eocene Oligocene deposits by an ongoing catastrophic cataclysmic event. The event would have included, the burial of enormous numbers of animals, sea and land types, and their subsequent conversion into rock phosphate over a region of at least 200 miles by 30 miles in extent, which is only the partially exposed part. And so now this map here, if you'll notice, now I want you to notice if you look at the map here of Florida, go over to the right bottom side. It's got phosphate sites and phosphate counties. So if you look at the counties, that light cream colored or light brown colored, that's the counties with the phosphate sites. Now the phosphate sites are in red. That red block or red square is where the phosphate sites are. Now, what I want you to do, if you look at the red dot that I have there, that's Tampa, Florida. Now, this location is going to be on the west coast south of Tampa. And personally, me, guys, I think it's darn near close to these phosphate beds in Florida. They very well could be in the beds of Florida. I don't know. They may be right outside. All I know is that the article I'm about to read you does not mention the phosphate beds in the article. But the article is called Florida Fossils Puzzle the Experts, and it's from Creation Research Society Quarterly, Volume 21, March 1985. And it reads, recent excavation of a fossil bed near Florida's west coast south of Tampa has yielded the bones of more than 70 species of animals, birds, and aquatic creatures, said by paleontologists to be one of the richest fossil deposits ever discovered in the U.S. Now, this is back in 1985. I don't know if they've discovered anything else since then, but again, remember, this is a 1985 article. The remains were found in a relatively thin layer, 2 to 12 inches in thickness. Above and below the fossil bed were layers of shell and sand several feet thick. About 80% of the fossil bones were those of plains animals, camels, horses, mammoths, mastodons, mylodons, sloths, giant tapirs, and wild pigs. So you can see how the animals do coincide to what they have been finding in the phosphates. Going on, it says there were also bones of bears, giant beavers, timber wolves, and large cats, including the saber-toothed tigers. Bones of 16 species of birds were identified. 14 of them were waterfowl. One bird, get this, guys, one bird had an estimated 30-foot wingspan. 30-foot wingspan. That's incredible. Mixed with all of these were the remains of sea creatures, including sharks, teeth, and giant sea turtle shells, as well as bones of both freshwater and saltwater fish. The bones were jumbled together as if by violent forces. The mammoth tusk broken and slivers scattered over a wide area. Get that, guys. The mammoth tusks were broken and slivers scattered over a wide area. One tusk had been sharply bent, obviously while still green and attached to the mammoth. The area surrounding the fossil deposit is believed by some to have been an ancient riverbed, yet indications are that it has been primarily an estuary, that is a water passage where the tide meets the river, environment, since shells and sand surround the fossil layer and ancient mangrove stumps were found. Going on, it says the local terrain is extremely flat, with no evidence of swiftly flowing rivers that might have helped to explain this remarkable deposit. Those who try to devise a uniformitarian scenario must face the problem. How could the remains of all these plains animals, thoroughly mixed with those of waterfowl and sea creatures, possibly end up in this place? Paleontologists have dated the fossil bed at 1.5 to 2 million years old on the basis that the types of animals found are believed to have lived during the Pleistocene epoch. The local newspaper has produced a colorful poster describing the fossil find. It is captioned Tampa, 2 million years BC, and is advertised for sale to school children. The premise of the news articles about the dig is that the animals lived and died in the same general area where the remains are found, possibly during a glacial period when the sea receded. The fossils are to be placed in the Florida State Museum at Gainesville for study. Local creationists are seeking ways to gain a hearing for evidence that the Earth is not so old and that flood geology provides an explanation for the fossil deposit. And so I agree. When you talk about the extent of what they found and the amount of what they found, it shows more of a catastrophic inundation, guys, and more of a catastrophic nature. And so, but again, it doesn't mention the phosphate beds, but the time period, talking about the Pleistocene time period, and that one area where it talks about the thin layer being 2 to 12 inches in thickness. It sounds about like what they've been finding in these phosphate layers. Of course, some of them are thicker and thinner in areas that kind of just comes and goes. It just depends on, how the bed was laid out. And but very well could be. I'm bringing it up for two reasons. One, it could be the phosphate. It could be in the phosphate beds in Florida. And two, it's a fossil graveyard. It's a fossil graveyard, and that's what we're talking about is fossil graveyards. And so I just thought, heck, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in because it is too darn close to the phosphate beds to, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, to not be related to them. And so I don't know. All right, let's look at anomalous fossils. Anomalous fossils. Dinosaur and giant extinct marine reptile remains mixed with supposed later mammals are called anomalous or misplaced fossils. Anomalous means that which does not fit in the normal pattern. These fossils are out of their supposed normal geological order. The dinosaur tracks and human footprints in the Paluxy River, if you guys remember my Dinosaur and Man presentation, I went through that. The dinosaur and man tracks that have been found together in Glen Rose, Texas, towards the end of that presentation, there's a whole bunch of videos concerning that. Going on, it says, and other places are examples of anomalous fossils. Dinosaur tracks and human footprints shouldn't be together by geologic timescale, so they're considered an anomalous fossil. Michael A. Cremo and Richard L. Thompson have written a massive survey in which they carefully document numerous examples of human artifacts and fossils that are not found in their proper geological order. Some of these artifacts and fossils are millions and even tens of millions of years out of sequence. Cremo and Thompson are not creationists. Their conclusion is that the scientific establishment has a bias against this evidence because it does not fit and actually destroys the prevailing neo-Darwinian paradigm. The evidence is either ignored or is not dealt with fairly. Dr. Jerry Berman wrote a well-reasoned article several years ago in which he documents strong bias and censorship of creationist literature, articles, presentations, and individuals by their secular, scientific, and academic establishment. We believe that John Watson's discussion of this in relation to the phosphate beds of South Carolina may be another case of such bias and censorship. A well-known creationist geologist, after reading Watson's paper, comments that this evidence was probably overlooked by later, more uniformitarian, model-driven geologists and paleontologists. I work with such scientists every day and am constantly amazed by the way they pick and choose their information. This is likely what happened. Instead of questioning Leedy's older work, they just ignore it. It happens all the time. Modern uniformitarian geologists follow the geologic timescale so religiously that even when excellent field geologists in the past link all these fossils together, they are just ignored. This is the real issue. Now, guys, when it comes to, I've got the book by Michael A. Cremo and Richard L. Thompson. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to talk about that book, but that is an outstanding book. And I'm going to show you that book, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to give you some places that you can learn more at the end of this presentation. And so, but it's true. It's true that, you know, scientists are always saying, well, where's your literature? Where's this? Where's that? Where it's just that the uniformitarian scientists are running mainstream academia, and they filter out anything that goes against their theories. And so now I'm going to show you proof of how even they will do this to their own. And so now this right here, if you'll notice, I took some slides from my Dinosaur and Man presentation in the area where I'm talking about soft tissue and dinosaur bones. And this is Mary Schweitzer. Now, Mary Schweitzer does believe in evolution. She believes in evolution 100%, but she's also a born-again Christian. And I've had email correspondence with her, and I asked her that if, you know, I heard that she was a born-again Christian, and I had read it in a secular magazine, and I just wanted to collaborate, you know, was it true? And she told me, if you'll notice this right here in quotes, yes, I was a born-again Christian. I was born again a long time ago, far longer than I have been a scientist. Now, guys, being an evolutionist is not going to keep you out of heaven. Not being born again, having Jesus' blood to wipe away your sin, your being your Savior, and not having your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life, that will keep you out of heaven. And so now it says here, now this came from Discovery Magazine, the next one down, Discovery Magazine, April 2006, Schweitzer's Dangerous Discovery, page 37. It says, she is not just a pioneering paleontologist, but also an evangelical Christian. Now listen to this, guys. That fact alone has prompted some prominent paleontologists to be even more skeptical about her scientific research. Now, how more biased do you got to be? That fact alone has prompted some prominent paleontologists to be even more skeptical of her. just because she's a Christian, because she might believe the book of Genesis. Now, she does believe in evolution, and how she witnesses her faith about the book of Genesis and the creation account is beyond me. And she's going to have a real hard time about that. But just because if she says she's born again, they're going to be more skeptical of her. Now, Jack Horner was kind of her, he was a supervisor, but he was kind of took her under his wing. But when she found that soft tissue, guys, and that T-Rex thigh bone, he told her, he said, Mary, the freaking creationists are going to love you. You know why he said that? Because he knows the significance of that find. He knows just how controversial it's going to be. He knows that soft tissue is not going to last millions and millions of years in a dinosaur bone. It just ain't going to happen. Now, going on, what Mary stated about fellow Christians attacking her, it rips my guts out, she says. These people are claiming to represent the Christ I love. They're not doing a very good job. It's no wonder that a lot of my colleagues are atheists. She told one zealot, if you were the only picture of Christ I had was your attitude towards me, I would run. And guys, that's true. A lot of Christians gave her a hard time because that she does believe in evolution, and she says she's born again. And so, though I had different views about where the dinosaurs came from and creation and stuff like that, I was very courteous to her, and she said I could always contact her in the future and ask her any other questions. But now I want you to listen to this. Listen how these people react to her once they find out that, one, she's a Christian, and two, she's finding stuff that they know goes against their theory. This is what she said. I had one reviewer tell me that he didn't care what the data said. He knew that what I was finding wasn't possible. I wrote back and said, well, what data would convince you? And he said, none. Now, how much more blind or just flat out sticking your head in the sand do you have to be? Now, what is science? Science is based on being observable and repeatable. Now, remember that. It needs to be observable and it needs to be repeatable. That is what these people are constantly shoving down our throats about science. Don't you know that science backs up evolution? And when they see stuff like this, they will not accept it. They will not accept it, even though that it's been proven to be real in these dinosaur bones. Now, I'm going to show you what observable and repeatability means and what is true science. Right here it says, back in the lab, Schweitzer and her technician demineralized the fragments by soaking them in a weak acid. As the fossil dissolved, transparent vessels were left behind. You see the pictures right above it. She said, it was totally shocking. I didn't believe it until we done it. How many times? 1, 2, 17 times. Now, what is that, guys? That is observable and that is repeatable. And what do you call that? That is science. That is what science is called. Going on. She said, when you think about it, the laws of chemistry and biology and everything else that we know say that it should be gone, the soft tissue. It should be degraded completely. So she's admitting it that it goes completely against their theory. She goes on, either the dinosaurs aren't as old as we think they are, or maybe we don't know how these things get preserved. Now, that is a true scientist, guys. Even though she believes in evolution, she freely admits it. Either the dinosaurs aren't as old as we think they are, or maybe we don't know exactly how these things get preserved. Now, when we come back, I'm going to try to finish up. I'm not sure. It may take me 2 more videos, as I want to make sure I really punch this, this end part of it, and because there's atheists out here, guys, and evolutionists that are attacking these researchers from the 1800s about what they found. And we're going to look at some of that. We're going to look at some of their attacks. But I want you guys to realize that just being a Christian alone, if you're a scientist and you believe in evolution, if they find out that you're born again, they will be skeptical of your work. And that shows you guys the attack. That shows you the attack, and it shows you how Charles Lyell thought about God. Remember what he said. He said that he wanted to free the science from Moses. He wanted to free the science from Moses. How much more blatant do you have to be? And so, again, even today, way back, now back when that article, right around 2006, when these articles had came out, again, the attacks are still there. If they find out that even one of their own even has some type of attachment to the Bible, they will attack anything that they do. And that shows you guys where the real attack is on. It has nothing to do with science, because Mary Schweitzer showed them true science. It has everything to do with God. And they don't want to have anything to do with him, and they will kick him out and anybody else that has anything to do with him. Well, at any rate, we're going to stop right there. And when we come back, we're going to continue on. And I'm looking at maybe possibly 2 more videos. And then we'll be finished with this block here. But you guys take care. I love you. Hope the Lord bless you real good. Bye-bye.